Hey everybody. Welcome to episode 43 of MAME Politics. Super Tuesday 2020 special. Uncle Pooh, a game from 1983. Um, I didn't realize at first when I found this game that it was actually referring to defecation and shitting. And apparently it's all themed around a little old man who farts out bubbles that can be used as weapons to kill enemies, to destroy obstacles, um, and he's basically trying to escape a flood of water. And some other person online speculated that this was his toilet overflowing that he is trying to outrun in this game. And yeah, it's made by a company called Diatech. I don't know of any other games that they've made, but as you can see from this little splash screen, it's a real high quality game. So hope you guys like it. Unfortunately, I'm doing this a little too early. So at some point during this live stream, we'll at least have some results from some of the states, some of the Super Tuesday states. Some of them are going to start reporting at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So that's roughly in about 15 minutes here. States like California, some of the other states are going to be reporting in at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So for those of you guys on the East Coast, you're probably not going to find out about it unless you stay up till midnight tonight, or tomorrow morning you'll find out what's going on. Joseph, you were having mass panic attacks today because Biden must be defeated at all costs. Yeah, I mean, I don't blame you. But you know, I mean, like I've been saying, I think Trump's pretty much got this election. So I don't know how much panicking is worthwhile. I think we should already be accepting that the outcome is probably going to be very bad. But I will say hello to you guys now, since I didn't get a chance to. Hey, Rotten. Hey, Persona Management. Hey, Carl. Hey, Andrew. Hey, David. Hey, Peppo. Hey, Jason. Hey, Trish. Hey, Furious Psyop. How's it going? Hey, Modus. And hi, Bird. Good to see you guys. Well, I mean, that's Joseph. That's the problem with Sanders. He doesn't attack anyone when he needs to. He doesn't go for the jugular at all. Look at all the debates he did with Hillary Clinton in 2016. That was some of the weakest fucking shit I've ever seen in my life. That's pretty much why I was never that. I mean, I was never really a supporter or endorser of Bernie Sanders. But especially after those performances, I knew that I could never really be like a supporter of his. I could cast a lesser of two evils vote for him in the primary, which I admittedly did today. Just full disclosure, I'm wearing a little stupid sticker here. I went to my local polling station, but I mean, even just after seeing his debate performance against Hillary Clinton, I could never support or endorse someone who's that weak, debating against someone with that many flaws. It's frankly embarrassing how poor of a job he did against Hillary Clinton in 2016. Abysmal. He did the same thing with Biden. Similar little performance he did with Hillary during one of the debates. He did it with Biden, saying that like he does. I think he essentially said like he doesn't care about the Burisma like thing, and he's not going to like use that against Joe Biden or something. He did the same thing about Hillary's missing, destroyed 30,000 emails in the 2016 debates. I don't know if you guys remember that. Joseph Ballin, you can't accept another Trump term. I mean, I don't mean to like, be condescending or anything, but like you got to. You got to accept reality. I mean, there's a very high likelihood Trump is going to win a second term. Or, if it's not a super high likelihood, it's pretty evenly matched. I mean, so accept the worst possibility now as the outcome so that when it happens, it's not as depressing. I know I keep saying this, but we got to be realistic about this. Peppo, I was confused actually about Tulsi's tweet about Warren. While it was a good insult against her for faking her indigenous heritage, what does Tulsi mean by her own indigenous heritage? What is Tulsi's actual ethnicity or nationality? I didn't realize she came from some kind of an indigenous ethnicity. I was just honestly confused by what her tweet was actually saying. Yeah, Joseph, that is what Bernie said, something like, "I don't care about her damn emails." Well, you should care about things that could easily hurt your opponent in an election, that look bad or potentially really corrupt or illegal. So just because the Republicans are talking about them doesn't mean it's not something you should also be talking about. And that is ultimately Bernie's problem. He is already, in my opinion, looking weak for not talking about the corrupt nature of this primary season. He's not talking about it enough, and he's allowing Donald Trump and other people from the right to talk about it for him in a much more strong way, which I think is frankly just bad that Trump is speaking more strongly about the unfair nature of the DNC primary process than Bernie is. That's bad. Pacific Islander. Got it. Okay. Samoan and Caucasian mix. Got it. That was someone answering my question about Tulsi. So Samoa, could that be considered an indigenous culture? Just technically speaking, I mean, I guess it can be, right? Because I've known, I've known several Samoan people in my lifetime who never referred to themselves as indigenous. So I don't know. I mean, I'm just wondering. It's a totally ignorant question. I'm just wondering if that's technically appropriate to refer to it that way, or if that's something that Tulsi is just choosing to do. Sanders said he won't concede, according to Kyle Klinsky. Trish, what do you mean by that? Like he won't pull out of the race? Andre, indigenous just means you're not a colonizer or immigrant to that land. Got it. Okay. My understanding of Hawaii is not, I don't have a great understanding of the indigenous populations of Hawaii. I was under the assumption, probably wrong one, that most of the actual indigenous population of Hawaii no longer existed or had been largely mixed with other forms of immigrants that have come into Hawaii, non-white immigrants. I didn't realize that Samoan people in Hawaii would be considered indigenous. For some reason, I thought it was like some specific, indigenous genetic line that was always sort of lived in Hawaii. Oh, contested convention. Yeah, I mean, I think that unfortunately that's where we're heading. We're heading to a legit contested convention of some kind. Believe it or not, I mean, it seems like that's the direction things are going in. Jason Gallagher, I need to watch more Hawaii Five-0, he says. Well, Trish, that's good news. I don't know if Bernie's as much of a fighter as we need him to be, even in that scenario. So even if he says he's not going to back down or concede and he'll still stick in there for the fight, I don't know how much fight Bernie actually has in him is my concern. Contested convention means Hillary, says Jason. I don't know. I don't see Hillary re-entering this race like people have suspected that she might. Now, I could see her taking the VP slot in a Biden presidency or something crazy like that. Is anybody familiar with the audio company in Behringer? Well, if you're not familiar with them, they're a very mainstream audio company. They've been making audio equipment for probably as long as I've been alive. They put out a lot of cheap, inexpensive equipment, and they have a bad reputation for putting out things that are not very high quality, that are just affordable for like audio professionals and musicians. They're a very large, powerful company. And what they've done is they've announced that they're going to start releasing knockoff products, analog synthesizer knockoff products of very coveted classic gear, like the Roland TR-808 and the Roland TB-303. This company, Behringer, has attracted a lot of attention in the last year because they're planning to undercut a large portion of the analog synthesis sort of boutique market of all these independent, smaller companies making their own new analog synthesizers. So a lot of people had an issue with that. They felt that Behringer were mostly just pirating old designs. They weren't doing anything original. But people started to sort of get won over by the cheap prices and the way that the product sounded. Apparently, a lot of people were like, this new TB-303 knockoff that Behringer's putting out sounds great, and it's only, less than $500 or something, so I'm going to buy it. Now, after that happened, I guess Behringer took it too much to heart that there were certain people in the industry who were continually critical of what they were doing on forums and things like that. They tried to sue Dave Smith's Instruments for leaving some comment. Dave Smith, I guess, left some comment in some audio forum criticizing what they were doing. They tried to sue him for leaving a comment on a forum for $500,000. The lawsuit was thrown out. And a few months after that, what Behringer did is they released a very strange product promo for a fake joke synthesizer. That's something like a company would usually do on April Fool's Day. But what they did is they released a video advertising a fake synthesizer product, mocking a guy who's basically a music journalist who criticized Behringer. He didn't actually criticize them that harshly. Named Joseph Kern. I think his name is Joseph Kern. His name is something Kern, Kirn. If you're in sort of the world of audio synthesizers, you've probably heard of him. So what Behringer did was a couple days ago, they released a promo product video for a made-up synth called the Cork Sniffer, called the Kern Cork Sniffer. And the logo on the product was a man with a giant nose that looked like an anti-Semitic caricature, apparently of this guy Kern. Now, they quickly deleted the video, even though it looked like they spent at least a couple thousand on this fake promo video. And then, apparently, Behringer trademarked the name Kern, Kirn, in order to mock and bully this music journalist guy. I've honestly never heard of a company doing something like this. So I just thought it was an interesting anecdote for anybody who listens to this show, watches this show, who's not into electronic music or synths. It's still a really, really sleazy, fucked up thing for a company to do to someone. So, yeah, I really don't. I'm kind of shocked that they would have done that. Well, thanks to my new Patreon subscriber, Ryan. Someone just subscribed over Patreon. Really appreciate that. Hey, John, how's it going? Hey, Daniel S., how's it going? Oh, thank you. That was you, Persona Management. I appreciate that. Tom Collector. Well, I don't know if the actual like synthesizer architecture flow, signal flow is patented of the Yamaha CS80. It might be an open-ended enough architecture that's not copyrightable that they could clone. I mean, how are they cloning the TB303? How are they cloning those things? I mean, it's kind of the same deal. So I don't quite get it. I'd really actually like to check out the Yamaha Reface CS80. It looks pretty amazing. So I'm going to go head over to the results because last time I checked, it said Super Tuesday results for some of the states were going to come out now. It just turned 4 p.m. Let's see. Oh, actually, I guess the first results that are going to come in, last time I looked, it looked like they had different times, but the times are now. So the earliest result we're going to get is Vermont, 4:15 p.m. So I'll be able to read to you Vermont. I'll be on until 4:30 as well. So I'll be able to tell you guys the North Carolina results, Alabama results, and let's see what else. What else am I missing here? Yeah, just Alabama, North Carolina, and Vermont. So I'll be on definitely during those early results. Nothing yet, though. Nothing. Yeah, I'm going to, Jace or David. I'm definitely going to play some Uncle Pooh. Definitely. Now this is another one of those weird games that has like a DC signal just going through the whole thing. So right now, as I'm looking at the audio meter for the sound output on this game, It just looks like a flat, silent tone. But apparently it does not interfering with my voice right now, so that's okay. I don't know if that's an emulation error or if that's just something that these sound chips tended to do back in the day, but I've noticed a few of these old games, they just put out like a silent, uncycled square wave tone that's going in the background that shows that the audio levels are very loud, but in actuality it's silent and you can't hear anything. John Gold, the name Andy Worthington sounds very familiar to me. I feel like maybe we follow each other on Twitter or something. I'm not sure. And I mean Roger Waters, um, Pink Floyd guy. Yeah, that's cool that you're. Biden won Virginia, Bernie won Vermont. Says my mom, Susan Martin. Hey, how's it going? You're in the chat. I don't know how you're able. Are you watching this on TV? Because I don't see them yet on where I'm looking. I don't see any results yet. I'm going to the New York Times now. Oh, okay. Okay, great. So this, yeah, my mom is right. Okay, so I'm reading right now. I'm just going to read to you guys what's happening because this is not good. So Biden wins 99 delegates for Virginia. 99. Wow. Oh man, this is so this is looking bad. This is looking real bad. It says Vermont, which is almost certainly Sanders, says the forecast. This is from the New York Times. 16 delegates only for Vermont. North Carolina, 110 delegates. Likely Biden, New York Times is forecasting. Alabama, almost certainly Biden, New York Times is forecasting. 52 delegates. Wow. I mean, California and Texas, if Sanders can get those today, that'll be the clincher because Texas is 228 delegates. It's being forecast by the New York Times as maybe Sanders. California, 415 delegates, quite likely Sanders. That one is to be expected. But if Bernie only clinches California and he loses some of these other bigger states with delegates, Biden's got Super Tuesday. Biden's got Super Tuesday. As nutty and as fucking crazy as that sounds, that could be the outcome of today. The Goober. Yes, I have been following the Assange trial a little bit. If there's anything specific you wanted me to mention about it, I'd be happy to. I did talk about the news story about the whole Dana Rohrabacher thing a few episodes ago. John, no, it's not really a surprise. I mean, I knew that the DNC was going to do everything they could to try to disrupt Bernie Sanders. Tom Collector, yes, that's true. He doesn't get all 99 delegates, but he'll get most of them. I mean, or he'll get a substantial portion of them. It's sort of, I don't know how it normally goes. But we'll find out in a few hours, I guess. I mean, how quickly actually did the delegates pledge? I feel like it happens fairly quickly. I would have more. I would like Roger Waters better if he did not promote Caitlin Johnstone at multiple concerts of his. To be honest, I thought that was really in poor taste, frankly. It makes me question his judgment, to say the least. But I think he does a lot of good things, a lot of good activism. I mean, you know, at least he is spreading some of these issues at his concerts. On Around the Empire, they were saying Assange has been given BZ. Who said that? Persona management? Did Joanne say that? That he has been given BZ? There's not a paywall. Wait, Joseph, are you going to New York Times? The live election here, I'm just going to show you what I'm looking for. I don't have a paywall on this, on what I'm looking at right now. So I'm just going to post it. I'm not trying to promote New York Times, but here, check out these results. Oh, Peppo, I mean, if you just want a brief backstory on it, years and years ago when Caitlin Johnson first appeared on the scene, um, I remember finding it very alarming that she was trying to promote working with Mike Cernovich and Jack Posobiec to fight the deep state, and she was encouraging other people in the anti-war movement and the left to do so also. So I called her out on that. I asked her why she would be doing this. Other people from the left also were doing it as well. I wasn't the only one. Instead of addressing it, she denied it and doubled down on why she thinks these people are good people. She heavily relied on Mike Cernovich and Jack Posobiec retweets and promotion from their social media accounts. And I think she made a cynical calculation where she needed their promotions and she didn't want to criticize them because they were so heavily into promoting her. And it created sort of a roadblock for certain people on the left like me from being able to tolerate the viral nature of her work and basically putting out toxic recommendations to work with Mike Cernovich and Jack Posobiec. And because I wouldn't let this go and I kept bringing it up, she eventually decided to write a 4-page hit piece on me, claiming that I was mocking mental illness. It was some of the most disingenuous, pathetic, manipulative writing I had ever seen. It was sort of in the vein of gaslighting. For the first thing that stood out to me is Caitlin Johnstone herself has used the term manic to mock people online. So right off the bat, I was like, this seems really phony that she would be acting like she's offended that I'm mocking her for acting manic. So that was the first thing that I noticed. And then what was also hilarious to me is she almost like tried to get me in trouble with my sister. She had all of her followers tag Abby's name and she tagged Abby's name, like in this hit piece she wrote about me. And it was just, I mean, I just thought it was real dirty trickery. And then she also applied in the same piece that, she implied in a different piece that when I criticized her for saying we should work with Mike Cernovich and Jack Posobiec to fight the deep state, that it was akin to a form of sexual assault. And because I take the concept of sexual assault very seriously, I found that extremely disgusting and manipulative as well. I think Caitlin Johnstone is an extremely toxic and phony figure. And I still question heavily why on earth she would have promoted Jack Posobiec and Mike Cernovich that much. Was it just for the clicks? Did she need it to go viral? I don't know. I find it really sus. And yeah, that's pretty much the story. I mean, I could say more things about it if you'd like. If you have any more questions, I'd be happy to talk about it. Karen Kwiatkowski. Um, yeah, I've tried to talk to her a little bit actually since I put clips of her in A Very Heavy Agenda Part 1. If you guys have seen that film, you'll know that Karen Kwiatkowski makes a pretty significant appearance in it. However, I have not been following her work too heavily since then, and I do notice that since I have been following her on Twitter, she does post a lot of right-leaning things. But I don't really know much beyond that what she's referring to. I've never heard that Julian Assange was given BZ. BZ is an experimental, weaponized hallucinogen manufactured by the U.S. government. It's extremely crazy that someone would say that. without any evidence, and maybe there's some evidence for it. I don't know. I mean, I've actually, the first piece I ever wrote for Media Roots was about BZ and experimenting on humans with it. What did I change my channel name to? What do you mean? What did I change my channel name? I didn't mean to. What is my channel name now as opposed to before? I don't know. Joseph asked, how are they having all these predictions when there's votes aren't even in yet? I don't fucking know. I think it's maybe just based on exit polling. That's the best I can say. Yeah, John Gold's right. Ex-military people are weird, especially ex-military people involved in activism. I met quite a few of them in my time doing activism, involved in 9/11 Truth, etc. And many of them are very weird or eccentric individuals with very strange beliefs. Um, so I mean, I don't know. I don't know where she's getting the BZ thing from. I'll talk to Joanne about that, and I'll listen to the episode and get back to you guys about it. And in case anybody's wondering, no, I have not had a chance yet to listen to the True Anon 9/11 podcast. Apparently, they put part 2 of the podcast behind a paywall where you have to be a Patreon subscriber. If someone could actually get me a copy of that without becoming a Patreon subscriber so I could review it on here, I would happily do that. Yeah, Adam G. Super happy Tuesday to you too. Happy Super Tuesday. Super happy Tuesday. Yeah, Joseph Ballin says, younger brother was an Afghan vet, apparently has PTSD. It doesn't surprise me. I don't see how anyone who served in Afghanistan and Iraq isn't suffering from some form of PTSD on some level, honestly. That's another reason why I find Tulsi so phony on a certain level. Like, she could talk about things in a much more specific way about what it's like to serve and the horrors of war and things like that, but she doesn't talk about it in a way that I've heard other active or veterans talk about military who are anti-war activists. She talks about it in a way that would be very compatible for people who are still very pro-military and don't want to hear anything about all the murders we cause over in the Middle East. It's very careful rhetoric, the way she describes her own service and serving overseas. Very, very careful. Very, very careful. It's dialed in to be able to, have people believe in her that don't want to hear anything about the moral implications of what we do in the Middle East. Well, Obnobs says PTSD isn't always real. Sometimes it's just guilt. Well, those definitely, I mean, the term PTSD is overused for sure. In therapy, it's someone's not diagnosed with it unless they have specific markers that, show that you have actual PTSD. And there are also varying degrees of PTSD. You can have it very badly. You can have it in a sort of a minor level. But I think it's fair to say that most people who serve in active combat have probably some form of diagnosable PTSD. Most Americans are not desensitized or acclimated to that kind of environment. So, yeah, I mean, I'm willing to give most soldiers the benefit of the doubt that they probably, on some level, most of them suffer from it. Hey, Tom. Yeah, that Tim Pool dating video, it was just sad because just think about it. If you're on a dating website looking for prospective dates, seeing a guy only with pictures of himself wearing a beanie would immediately give you red flags that why is this dude not comfortable with his baldness? He's obviously bald underneath this beanie, and why won't he just show it? Why is he so insecure? Tim Pool, unless his pictures on the dating website show him without the beanie, which I'd be shocked if they do because he never takes it off. That just telegraphs straight up insecurity. No one wants to date a guy who's that blatantly insecure. So that was my initial reaction to it. Is like first of all he's lying. It's just sad. And he just needs to fucking be comfortable with losing his hair. I'm losing my hair. It sucks. I'm not like thrilled about it, but I mean, you're not going to see me wearing a beanie to try to cover that up. And yeah, it's true. You know, all the shit Larry David says on Curb Your Enthusiasm is true. Women, sometimes don't like bald guys. That's a thing. But I really would actually be willing to bet that women are less attracted to insecure men who are trying to hide their baldness than a man who is comfortable in his own baldness. So that was just funny to me. What's my opinion on the war nerd? Who said that? Obnobs. To be honest, Obnobs, I have not actually listened to it. I used to follow Gary on Twitter. I don't know if I still follow him. I like Mark Ames a lot. I don't see eye to eye with Mark Ames, and actually, frankly, most people on Syria. So just like a lot of people discussing Syria or ISIS, I've had a hard time digesting some of the war nerd narratives about that. Because to me, it echoes a lot of the similar tropes. There was something on the war nerds page where he was celebrating letting all these ISIS prisoners die in prison. And I remember not being, I didn't like that post. I didn't care for that. I don't think that ISIS, I don't think you should celebrate the dehumanization of ISIS simply because you bought into the trope that they are subhuman. So I guess I mean, I don't know. That's just a pet peeve of mine. And it's not just the war nerd. It's pretty much everyone in the anti-imperialist scene on Syria. I think Scott Horton is actually one of the only people who's talked about Syria who I can largely agree with, and I don't have issues digesting a lot of the way that he talks about Syria. And the scene is still largely dominated by people who have a spectrum of dehumanization in the way that they refer to the different forces in Syria, and I just can't get on board with that. I can't do it. Andrew, I don't think I could pull off a bald beardy look because my head is shaped fucking weird. If I shaved my head, I would look terrible. I honestly would. So I'm just going to let myself bald naturally. Kurds are a thorny issue, says Joseph. Yeah, I mean, it's a thorny issue. I mean, I've even found a lot of the people who refer to, all the rebels in Syria as jihadists. They also like the Kurds, and support the CIA Kurdish rebel program. So I don't really understand where the hell people's heads are at in all this stuff. It's honestly made me feel extremely alienated from it. And also, it doesn't help that a lot of people who dominate the debate on Syria used to be pro-Syrian regime change only like 4 or 5 years ago. So it's just a mess. It honestly is a fucking mess. And I don't know. I have a hard time with Syria. I really do. Yeah, the Gubner says, I remember feeling jubilant when Obama announced Osama bin Laden's death, but looking back, it was pretty weird. Yeah, I mean, the weirdest thing to me at the time was, why wouldn't you want to capture and imprison the guy who was apparently, the guy who helped fund or originated the 9/11 attacks. You're seriously just going to kill this guy so we'll never hear what happened? Like, that's really sus. Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't Osama bin Laden be one of the most valuable intelligence resources ever? I guess not. Let's just wipe him out. It's fucking cartoonishly ridiculous that we wouldn't capture him. Yeah, John Gold, that's exactly right. John says it was a kill order on OBL. They did not want him alive. That is exactly right. And that should be suspicious to anybody. I mean, it'd be one thing if we didn't know for sure where he was and we just dropped a bomb, to try to make sure we got him. That would be more acceptable at face value. The whole way the Obama administration went about it is very, very suspicious. They wanted to eliminate bin Laden basically ever being able to speak to any journalist, to anybody. And probably for good reason. It's for the same reason they don't want the people in Gitmo to be able to talk to real lawyers and have a real trial. Because it would actually poke huge holes in the 9/11 official story. Gitmo is in some ways a show gulag to help keep and glue together the 9/11 narrative that is increasingly falling apart on a daily basis. I strongly believe that's why Gitmo exists. That's its main purpose, is to be a PR apparatus to help continue to glue together the house of cards, which is the 9/11 narrative. 100%. I would even argue Afghanistan was a show war to help do the same thing. Because we didn't really get much out of it. I mean, even the rare earths in the oil pipeline, like that shit's not even really happening yet. Even though there was all this economic potential there, it didn't really amount to sort of that dreamscape that the American empire was, thinking it would amount to. Furious psyop, exactly. What would have Osama said if public journalists interviewed him? I mean, that's actually probably why you don't even see any American journalists interviewing Assad anymore. Remember on the eve of the Red Line declaration by Obama, Charlie Rose sat down face to face and interviewed Assad, and Assad came off as extremely articulate and not crazy. Remember when Dan Rather interviewed Saddam Hussein on the eve of the Iraq invasion? I mean, I feel like journalists don't even do this anymore because it's like too risky for the narratives they want to put out. I mean, it's almost like they're helping destroy their own narratives by giving these people an actual interview platform to speak for themselves. South of the border smoker. The poppies from Afghanistan are actually going to the illicit drug market. It's still unclear to me and still very under-researched where, how much of the illicit poppy market goes to the illicit market and vice versa. That is still a very unknown, unexplored area. Now, I did do a Media Roots episode about how most of the world's legal opium production comes from Tasmania. And that's where most pharmaceutical companies like Johnson & Johnson get their raw opium product to make opioids like OxyContin and other drugs. But yeah, I mean, there's got to be black market drug money flooding into Afghanistan. I mean, that's where it's more untraceable. I think if it was going to the illicit poppy market or the illicit pharmaceutical market, there would be more on the book stuff about it, and someone would have discovered it by now. So I would assume that most of that stuff is going to the illicit, illegal heroin market. And the U.S. military, on some level, and CIA probably know a great deal about how that's going out. And I'm sure they're involved in some way too. It's just I don't have facts to give to you guys. I mean, I have individual cases. You know, there was a story about soldiers doing things with poppies, trying to smuggle heroin in Afghanistan. There's been individual stories like that, but nothing on a mass level. Nothing on the level that we know about out of Vietnam. So, like, there's actually more factual information that's been released since the Vietnam War about how generals and high-level military officials were involved in the heroin trade in Vietnam and in Laos and different places. We don't have that same information for Afghanistan, but I think in time we will have more. It's just probably harder to, like, document things in Afghanistan. There's probably less journalists. You know, there's less cameras around. Very isolated. You can get away with a lot more crazy shit. I mean, I don't know if I've told you this story about a friend, someone that I knew who served as a medic in Afghanistan many, many, many years ago. When he came back from Afghanistan, he basically told a story that resembled like a Hunter S. Thompson drug binge. That all he did in Afghanistan was shoot drugs with his platoon. He had access to morphine. He had access to all these injectable recreational drugs. Injectable Valium, injectable opioids, morphine, injectable ketamine. There was hash freely available everywhere in Afghanistan. All the soldiers smoked the shit out of it. So he basically said he was just on drugs the whole time, getting fucked up on ketamine. So that was his experience in Afghanistan. Furious psyop. There's something else in the opium poppy called thebaine that is, I guess, a really useful precursor for OxyContin. It's not because of the amount of codeine and morphine specifically in the poppy. It's something called thebaine that makes it specifically. It's I guess in Tasmania they've figured out a way to either genetically engineer or only grow a certain strain of opium poppy that has a very, very high concentration of this specifically to make OxyContin out of. You watch this at double speed, Rhizome? That's pretty funny. What would that be like? South of the Border Smoker says, wow, soldiers going down K-holes. Well, guess what, South of the Border Smoker? There is an actual video of private security contractors, a.k.a. armed soldiers, mercs, in Iraq, filming each other in K-holes. There's a video of actually a soldier who just injected ketamines in a K-hole, and his fellow soldier / merc is interviewing him and making fun of him as he's fucked up in a K-hole. There are videos of multiple soldiers in K-holes between Afghanistan and Iraq. I've seen at least one. So they exist. So I'm going to check those election results again for you guys. Sanders wins Vermont, 16 delegates. They're the only two called so far. Waiting for results in North Carolina. Okay. Pretty likely Biden. So the next two that look like they're going to get called are going for Biden. North Carolina and Alabama. What a bummer. What a bummer. This is so weird, too. It says reporting in, only 5% reported in, but Biden's the winner. It's strange. The way that they do this is just super weird. I know, Andre. You're gonna don't get too frustrated. I'm gonna outrun that water. I'm gonna outrun that overflowing toilet of Uncle Pooh. Watch this shit. Here we go. Uncle Pooh coming right at you. Coming right the fuck at you. Okay, so this is Uncle Pooh, 1983. Here we go. Sounds like the Bullet Bill. So I just farted on this motherfucker. Ah, fucker. It's like little. This guy looks like he's a turd. Yeah, it's a bummer night, Tom. Bummer night. My philosophy in life is to always lower your expectations. Wait, I ran out of farts? What the fuck are you talking about? What? It's fucking bullshit. Oh, so now I get more farts if I get the money bags. What a bullshit game. I mean, it seems fairly easy too. Why does it go so slow? Okay. Uncle Pooh's sprite looks pretty cool. It's just, still don't get why they called it Uncle Pooh. There's not enough, like, shit-themed things happening in this game to validate such an awful title for a game. Like, at least the game Booger Man made sense, right? It's like a guy, doesn't it? It's like a gross-out game. It's like Ren and Stimpy gross-out humor. Son of a bitch. Well, Joseph Ballin, I think the reason why Tulsi got so many votes in Virginia is because there's a lot of like military people out there, for sure. Virginia's a very weird place. I'm kind of fascinated by it as a state. It's so close to DC, but you can open carry there, and it's very backwards in a lot of ways. This game seems just way too easy. I never say that about games on here because they suck, you know? Why is this game so easy? Take that, motherfucker. Fuck! Shouldn't have said that so soon. Andre Gunnar says, I fart on animals too. Yeah. Essentially, that seems like this game is just you fart on animals that are trying to outrun your overflowing shit water, I guess. Coming from the sewage pipe. The double $sign money bag, that animation looks terrible. Look at that shit. What a shit-ass job. Keep in mind that Paperboy came out a year after this game, for just a comparison of how bad it is. 1 mile from CIA headquarters. Where is CIA headquarters? It's in Langley, right? Dick Cheney's house is in Langley. Interesting. Anybody familiar with Ashburn, Virginia? I got a little creeped out, actually. Some of the orders for a very heavy agenda that I got, because I do it direct sales, were for places in Virginia that were not on Google Maps. And I remember thinking that was really sketchy. Like, as someone from the CIA secretly ordering my movie, um, or they're just like really rich people who live in Virginia in these rural areas who don't, or somehow have gotten Google Maps not to photograph their homes. It just kind of creeped me out. And sometimes I've seen media routes. I used to see it more often in our stats. But back in the day, I used to see Ashburn, Virginia appear as one of the top cities that would listen to our podcast. And I remember thinking, that's really creepy. Who the fuck is it? Furious Psyop, yeah. We should do that. We should lobby Nintendo, get Uncle Pooh and Smash Brothers. I mean, if Matt DeHart's story is true, which I personally believe it is, then that means that the CIA did the anthrax attacks. Now, I guess maybe because I made myself so focused on those attacks that I guess I probably have a name for myself out there about that. I would not be surprised if people from the CIA were keeping tabs on that specifically. It wouldn't surprise me. There's a good reason why those attacks have been memory holed. Someone fucked up. Someone got really overzealous during those attacks. More, I would say even more so than 9/11. John Gold, no, I did not watch Red Sun. Didn't. I will, though. I will. What do you guys think about the way the term the intelligence community is being used these days? I asked that question because it seems like there's a lot of people online these days who like to talk about the intelligence community. And I even noticed like Tulsi Gabbard saying we cannot let the intelligence community interfere in our elections, sort of as opposed to the narrative that Russia and foreign actors are going to interfere in our elections. But I find the usage of that phrase intriguing to me because it's so open-ended. So is it referring to the retired intelligence officials who go on TV and talk about Russiagate all the time? Is it talking about people who are still inside the deep state, who are still in government, who are trying to work against the democratic process? Is it referring to Mike Pompeo's CIA because now he's the director of the CIA? It bugs me a little bit because it does seem like it's not being directed at the people currently in power. Like, it's still this deep state faction that's like not currently in power, and they're somehow going to meddle in the election. I'm just still astonished at how many narratives there are out there that still do not put things at the Trump administration's doorstep. And I don't even mean like Trump himself. I mean his cabinet choices. The fact that Mike Pompeo's running the CIA. The fact that this guy Grinnell was hired to be DNI. But I get the impression that people are not referring to those people or their organizations as the intelligence community. So I find that odd. Rhizome. Yeah, I mean, in terms of votes, I mean, yeah, since 2004, I mean, electronic voting machines are a big issue, and I sympathize with your skepticism of trusting results after so many people have been using electronic voting machines. I completely do. I guess where I vote, they don't use them. So maybe I'm just naive as to how big of a problem they are. Um, I mean, I would be interested to find out how many precincts or polling places are actually using electronic voting machines as opposed to real paper ballots right now, and how much that's actually shifted since 2004. It's not something I've been following enough, but I definitely, am a big proponent of like Bev Harris, her research on electronic voting machines, Greg Palast, his work on electronic voting machines. A lot of people have raised the issue in important ways. Elliot Abrams is still in there too, says Heather. Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, so that's what I don't understand, why the intelligence community... I still get the impression that people are referring to like Obama's deep state when they say the intelligence community. But maybe they aren't. I mean, I don't know. I just, when I see people using that phrase, it confuses me sometimes. Sweet Nugs asks, "Do you think Bernie would really be capable of erasing student debt?" I don't know. I mean, a lot of the things he's proposing doing would require um, the Senate and the House to go along with them. So I honestly don't know. Did anybody else get text messages from Michael Bloomberg's campaign? Let me see if I can even show you guys this. I don't know if this will even show up on the camera, but I'm going to try to show you guys. Tell me if you can see this. No, I probably can't. Hold on a second. So I've now gotten, I mean, yeah, you can't read that. I'll just read it to you. It's not, I mean, it's a bot message from somebody from the Bloomberg campaign claiming his name is Rob. This is now the third message I have gotten in 72 hours from 3 different phone numbers asking me if I will help the Mike Bloomberg campaign. 3 different phone numbers in 72 hours. Only one of the phone numbers responded when I texted back, and I asked them if they're a real person and that I would love to help with the campaign. And they responded, "I'm a real person, Person, period, C, because I misspelled person." Now, I guess this was some employee for Bloomberg's campaign thinking they were being clever or funny. It's weird, but I would like to try to troll their campaign and get involved. So I'm going to continue to try to converse with this person today and see if I can get more involved in their campaign and get someone on the phone to record and tell you tell you all about what that was like. But yeah, I'm just wondering if anybody else here is getting any of this shit. Breaking: Tulsi wins first delegate in American Samoa. Biden currently is winning or won North Carolina and Virginia. Sanders, Vermont. This is not looking good for Sanders. This is not. David, holy shit. David says they are paying my friend $6,000 a month to canvass for Bloomberg. What the fuck? I have never heard of anything even on. I mean, I've never heard of anyone being paid to canvass. Usually that's volunteer work. That's fucking nuts. Absolutely nuts. I thought Bernie was actually in. Oh, he was in Minnesota last night. I thought he was in California like 2 days before that. Peppo, no, I am not seeing the Associated Press Google widget you're talking about. Send it. I mean, post a link in here. You should be able to post URLs now in this chat. I don't know if I've already told you guys that, but if you want to try doing it, go ahead and post something, and it should go through. $15 an hour to canvas. Yeah, I guess maybe I'm just not that familiar with canvassing. I didn't realize that you even got paid for it. I didn't realize that was a typical thing to do. Hey.
Hey.
Streaming. You want to come say hi?
Yeah. You talking about Sanders getting creamed?
Yep. Lori just came home.
I was listening.
Oh, you were listening?
Mm-hmm.
You were MAME politicking.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I think don't get your hopes up. Even if Bernie cleaned up on Super Tuesday, I wouldn't get your hopes up. Now, I guess the worst thing out of this isn't just that Bernie is doing so poorly, but it's also going to be that we're actually probably not going to have a contested convention now. And on some level, I was looking forward to that because I think it would reveal the Democratic Party for being as corrupt as they really are. And so Bloomberg hired my friend who does sound engineering to follow Bloomberg $900. God damn. Furious Psyop said that just now. Nuts.
I wonder how much they paid Kyle McLaughlin, though.
Yeah, how much do you think they paid Kyle McLaughlin? Lori just said to like Bloomberg's tweets. Do you think he got paid for that?
Of course. He needs money for that winery.
Yes, Mom. It is. He is related. I was playing a game called Uncle Pooh.
I know.
You know? Oh, you saw it already where you fart bubbles?
It's very off-putting.
You want to play?
No.
Okay. You want to play Uncle Pooh? It's a great game. One of the best. Joseph Ballin says, I still think we will have a contested convention. I kind of hope we do. I mean, yeah, I want to see the ugliness come out. I want to see that happen. Barbara, go upstairs, baby. Go upstairs, babe. Can you call her, honey? Go. So funny how much of a ploy it was that all those people dropped out before Super Tuesday and endorsed Biden. What the hell was up with that? I mean, that's got to be... There's very shady backroom deals. And also, the fact that Obama hasn't endorsed Biden yet, it's interesting too. People are starting to wonder why that is. And there was a news story coming out from the other day that said he secretly met with Buttigieg and had a discussion with him. But he wasn't ready to overtly endorse Biden yet. But he suggested that he should or something. Honestly, Obama's a little bit of a mystery to me, to say the least. Bayonets and harmonicas. I was thinking it wouldn't be contested if Biden cleans up today. Biden cleans up on Super Tuesday, then it's over. It's over for Bernie, I think. So I think that if that happens, they're not going to allow a contested convention for Bernie's delegates. They're going to try to shut. They're even going to try to shut that down. If it's the other way around, if Bernie's delegates and Biden's delegates are pretty even, then there's going to be a contested convention. Fully I do. Yeah, probably not the time today to talk about that, but I promise I will. I think maybe on maybe we'll do it on this Saturday stream where Lori and I do it together. I would be very happy to talk about that from beginning to end. It is kind of an interesting story. And even though I've told it before, I don't think I've really told it with Lori or any of the other people involved. One of the other people involved does not want to talk about it anymore. He is worried about his employment because, as I mentioned before on here, Associated Press did send a camera crew into his place of work, and his boss fired him as a result of that many, many years ago. So I will not be talking about it with him, or he will not be talking about it with me, but Lori and I have no problem talking about it. So we would definitely be willing to talk about that at some point on here, for sure. Oh yeah, bayonets and harmonicas. She is the hand cutting my friend's neck. And she's also the camera person during a lot of it. So, yeah. And there's actually some hilarious outtakes of the video too. My friend does an impersonation of Kyle Reese from Terminator 1. Because he's like black, we we were thinking of making the video black and white, and the stance that he's in, sitting on the chair, kind of looks like Kyle Reese in the interrogation room in Terminator 1, like behind the screen. So we just I had him do a couple of Kyle Reese's lines from that scene in Terminator 2. So I still have video of that. Maybe I'll just post them on YouTube one of these days. The problem is he would not be happy with me if I do that. And I respected his wishes. So that's the unfortunate sort of bind that I'm in. Is I'm out of respect for him, I probably shouldn't do that. Although I would really, really like to show you that, guys, at some point. That video. Maybe I'll upload like a private link just to show my Patreon subscribers. We also tried to do another. I don't think I've really told this story on here. Maybe I have somewhere else. A French documentary camera crew that came and tricked me, bait and switched me into saying they thought our video was hilarious. To them when they arrived at my house to film me and talk about it, they basically had spoken to Nick Berg's dad and tried to like trap me in some kind of sympathy trap, acting like I had offended Nick Berg's dad and all this bullshit. These fucking cunt filmmakers just totally took the same generic narrative that the mainstream media tried to do against us, and I was super disappointed. Not surprising. Most all journalists are scum and are liars. I mean, that is kind of the truth. I will acknowledge that. I wouldn't even want to call myself a journalist because I think the profession are full of dishonest, scummy people, liars, careerist, hacks, and opportunists. I think most journalists are scum, pure fucking scum. And I'm not even mentioning like the stenographer journalists who are just straight up plants or propagandists. I just mean all of them. They're fucking scum. And you know this. It's not surprising. But I also did a, oh jeez, I have my shirt open. Sleazy of me. I did not mean to have my shirt open just now, guys. Yeah, I mean, we also filmed another video. Well, I'll just say I filmed another video in Arizona. We went somewhere in Arizona, very sort of in the middle of nowhere that looks like Afghanistan, that looks like it could be Afghanistan. We dressed in traditional Taliban-style garb, Muslim garb, and we met up with a friend of mine who had access to a bunch of legal, semi-automatic, Afghanistan-style weaponry, and we proceeded to film an Al-Qaeda training video in the Arizona desert with this weaponry, and it looks really, really convincing to me. It's it was filmed actually on purpose on a VHS camcorder that I found at a Salvation Army down in Arizona. I'd actually brought my own VHS camcorder that I managed to find at a thrift store out here, and it broke. Like on our way to Arizona, it stopped working. So we had to scrounge for another one. Luckily, we were able to find a pretty great quality handheld VHS camcorder. And we filmed like 4 or 5 hours of us just doing these Al Qaeda training video maneuvers in the desert. Never edited together, but that was going to be our next hoax. I don't even know who was going to use it. We just kind of actually, our goal with that one was we wanted to upload it online so that idiot journalists would accidentally use it as B-roll in the background of their stories talking about Afghanistan. So like some lazy fucking idiot journalist would like download clips online and be like, oh, this looks like an Al Qaeda training video clip. And then they'd put it in their news story. And then one day me and my friend would be like, holy shit, they're using our fake clip in Arizona to look like it's in Afghanistan. That's how fucking stupid the media is. Because we didn't even really think the media would pick up the beheading hoax video because it looked, frankly, not very realistic to us. So because they did and were so stupid and actually ran with it, we thought, well, now they'll run with anything because they're that fucking dumb. So, that was kind of our purpose in doing that. We never released that one though. But this French documentary film crew that did come to film and interview me about the beheading video, they actually did capture a good 10 minutes of that. I let them capture it off my computer. They hooked it into their camera and I let them capture it. And then I kind of got sick and then as they were capturing it, actually, that's when they started bait and switched me with the questions and started to turn the interview on me. So I told them that was pretty much the end of the interview. And I actually still have not seen the special. He stopped responding to my emails once he revealed the true nature of what he was trying to do in this documentary. So I actually was never even provided a link or a copy or anything to watch. So there's somewhere out there is a French documentary with about 15 minutes about me in it that I have never seen. Where are you seeing these results, Joseph? I'm not finding it. The stuff about Bloomberg right now. Can you post a link in the chat or just say where you're looking? Bayonets and harmonicas. I've never actually seen that clip you're talking about. I would love to see that. I love C-SPAN stuff. So if C-SPAN talked about our fake beheading video, that'd be amazing to watch. Absolutely would love to see that. Okay, now well, they have a weird. BuzzFeed's. I don't like the way BuzzFeed is reporting this. So BuzzFeed hasn't called anyone yet. So why the fuck is New York Times calling it? Oh, I guess BuzzFeed is doing the same thing. Never mind. Sorry. Oh, cool. Yeah, I didn't. If I retweeted that Bayonets or Harmonicas, I actually don't even remember watching it. So I should probably go back and watch that. I might have like meant to watch it and saved it and then totally forgot to. Yes, Rhizome, it is awesome that people act like the whole race is over after tonight. Did anybody happen to catch the Chris Matthews interview from the 2016 election where he sat down on live TV and interviewed Hillary? I believe it was in October. And I have to say, for as scummy and as gross and dumb as Chris Matthews is, it was surprisingly adversarial. And I think Hillary Clinton was actually shocked at how adversarial the interview was. She did not expect it. She was expecting to walk into a softball interview. And for some reason, he decided to really slam her on the question about regime change and why she's so eager to do regime change in all these places around the world. And the interview became extremely awkward. And yeah, and and it really didn't get any media attention either at the time. Daniel Wright of Shadowproof, who used to also be the former co-host of Around the Empire, he tipped me off to this interview and said, "Dude, did you watch this Chris Matthews Hillary interview? It's crazy." And I was like, "No, I didn't even hear about it." So the only place I was able to find it was on MSNBC's website. It didn't even have a YouTube video uploaded of it. And yeah, it was really crazy. It was such a crazy interview that I actually used a bunch of clips in it in a Very Heavy Agenda Part 3 that sort of revealed Hillary's hunger for regime change in that election. I thought he did a better job of revealing that and bringing light to that than any other mainstream media reporter did during that whole election cycle, which is kind of strange considering how bad of a track record he has. So I'd say the only thing that I like about him is that he's a kind of a wild card blowhard. He doesn't fully sit in the same like realm of scripted narratives that the rest of MSNBC does. So in some ways I'll actually miss him at MSNBC because he would still spout off weird shit. And I would rather see that on MSNBC than like scripted, totally like scripted talking points. So that's for me the only sad thing about him leaving. Well, Trish says, "I'm surprised they pushed Chris Matthews out. I didn't think they had any standards." Well, Trish, I think that it's been pretty clear to me, at least for the past 3 years, that he was already being marginalized at the network. He never got his own show. He would always be sidelined on these panels. Brian Williams, Rachel Maddow, Lawrence O'Donnell would be given like more presence as being the official talking heads on the network. He was always, he seemed like he was on his way to become like the main guy at the network at some point. And maybe after the Me Too movement, because maybe some stuff came to light then, it seemed like the network itself was sort of sidelining him. And that was pretty clear to me for the past 3 years. He has not been in a prominent position on MSNBC like you would expect for the seniority that he has there. I mean, so I don't know. This is not hugely surprising to me that maybe this was just the straw that broke the camel's back for them. Some recent sexual harassment stuff came to light. There was actually a funny story that came out. I didn't really get reported on too much, but apparently he was caught on a hot mic, I guess off air, so I don't even know how this leaked, but he was caught on a hot mic saying that he was going to give a Bill Cosby pill to Hillary Clinton. I don't know what he meant by that. I mean, I don't know if he was making a rape joke about her. I don't understand the context of it, but apparently that got him in hot water like 2.5 years ago, saying on a hot mic that he was going to give Hillary Clinton a Bill Cosby pill. Look that up on Google if you don't believe me. So I'm trying to get together with Yasha Levine for dinner tonight. And he wants me to come out to the city, but he doesn't know where. Does anyone have any good like Japanese restaurant recommendations in San Francisco? I don't go to the city very much. Type in protester with gun Chris Matthews on YouTube. South of the Border Smoker says hilarious. I'd love to see that. I'd never even heard of that incident. You have a good point. No, unfortunately, I'm not inviting people from this chat to dinner tonight. If we meet in real life and we hit it off, I mean, who knows? Maybe we'll be friends. I actually have a very, very small social circle, in general. But are you out here locally? Are you in the Bay Area? South of the Border Smoker, it only usually takes me a half hour to get there with not really much traffic. It takes an hour to get out there with traffic, like rush hour. And it's technically only like 15 miles away from me. So it's kind of a bummer. If you take public transportation, sometimes it's easier to get in and out of San Francisco, but BART is a real nightmare now. It almost makes the subway in some ways seem like more sanitary, I think. You're in Pennsylvania. Cool. You see a lot of Amish people out there? Shane Lindbergh, I am absolutely not coming to Milwaukee for the DNC, Shane. I am so not thrilled about this election, or really any previous election. I can never see myself going to a DNC or any political convention of any kind. I don't even like going to activist rallies. I don't like even going to protests. So that's definitely not on my list. But if you guys are going, if any of you guys are going, please let us know how it is. Report back. Oh, I also wanted to let you guys know that I do have a new track that came out today. Maybe I'll just play it, actually. I'll just play it for you guys. Yeah, I think I might just play this track for you guys to close out the podcast. How does that sound? It's a new track I have on a compilation. It's in a Nintendo 8-bit style. It's kind of really inspiring to make a track like this since I'm really into like old video game music. But I'm kind of thinking I might want to do like a whole album or an EP in this style, just because I had so much fun making this one track. Okay, and I don't know if this is going to work, but I'm going to try it. Let's see. No. Check, check. Could you guys hear that while it came on? Did you guys hear that at all when I started playing it? Did you guys hear that at all? Did that work? Did that work? Okay. All right. So I'm gonna turn off the game. Turn off Uncle Pooh. And I can't hear it on my end for some reason at all. So let's just see what happens here. So here we go. Whoops. Okay, gotta do it one more time. Okay, I'm gonna end the podcast with this track. Don't know if it's gonna work. I've never done this before. Let's see what happens. So yeah, that was a new track of mine. Can you guys still hear me? Can anybody still hear me? For some reason, it says my audio levels are off. Here. Oh, there I go. Sorry about that. Yeah, so if you want to get access to that track, the compilation costs $5. It's called Multi-Genre Belligerence Volume 1. It's put out by some friends of mine who do a cool monthly called Does It Bang here in Oakland. It's actually, I think it's bi-weekly. I think they do it every other week, if I'm not wrong. As always, if you'd like to get access to all the hidden or locked episodes of MAME Politics after they're done streaming, you can do so by becoming a Patreon subscriber of mine for as little as $5 at patreon.com/media. I was going to say the Media Roots one. Patreon.com/Robbie Martin. And we also have a newish Media Roots Radio episode out, all about Michael Bloomberg, or pretty much all about him. Check that out as well. And also follow me on Twitter if you aren't already at Fluorescent Grey. And also Caboose 117111218 just brought up the Catabatic Collection number 7, which is another compilation I have a new track on. This compilation is actually free. Very different style of music than what's on the compilation. This NES style track of mine is out on. It's much more sort of dark, synthesizer heavy, kind of electro vibes on this compilation. It's called the Catabatic Collection with a K. And I posted a link to it on Twitter and on Facebook as well. So thank you everybody again for watching MAME Politics. This was episode 43. And join me tomorrow. Very likely I'll be doing this tomorrow. I know that I haven't been doing it consistently daily recently. It's because some other things have just occupied my time, but I will try to do another episode tomorrow. I'm not sure what time, but definitely keep an eye out for that. And talk to you guys soon. Thank you.